All right, everybody, on today's podcast, I am excited to talk about the art of being social and what that means. That social in social media, social platforms goes well beyond just posting content. We dive into so many amazing examples, things that you can do and start to implement with your business today to start seeing your engagement and your community build and grow. And I'm excited that we're able to talk about this content. So stay tuned. It's going to be a fun ride. Welcome to the Marketing Mirror podcast, where we help guide and navigate you through the ever-changing world of marketing. So, no smoke and mirrors here, just the unfiltered truth served with a side of wit. Welcome, everybody, to the Marketing Mirror podcast. I am your host, Matt Bork, one of the partners and creators at Search and Rescue Marketing Agency, and I am joined by my dear friend, Ali Matos. She works with us at Search and Rescue Marketing Agency and is a phenomenal human being, and I hope you are well. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm doing really, really good. Yeah. I'm excited to talk to you today about the art of being social. And the reason why this has come up is because it's something that you and I have heard talked a lot about with businesses. And so I think today, for those that are listening, the whole point of today is to talk about why being social is important, putting the social back in social media, in social platforms. And I'll start with a little bit of almost a story to give kind of a bit of an understanding, or setting the tone, I guess would be. But I think, like, for me, I can actually speak from my own personal experience of showing up to a place where I don't really know anybody. I'm curious. My curiosity has gotten me there. I've seen something, or I've been invited. Like, I've had a little subtle nudge to get to this place. I'm there. I enter the room, whether there's a lot of people or not a lot of people, but people that I don't know. And I kind of just stay against the back wall. Nobody comes up to me and I feel awkward, even though I'm curious and I kind of do want to know what's going on. Everything in me is like, I'm out. And that's because I like to leave. But the other scenario, so being social, I think we've all been there too, where we've maybe possibly gone over to somebody's house. We've been there. We don't really know people. It's the same scenario, but somebody's come up and said, "How are you doing? Ali, how are you doing? It's good to see you here." And you instantly feel this weight lifted off your shoulders, and you feel somebody sees me. Like, somebody sees me. There's like a little bit of value there. And that, to me, the reason why I share that story is because that's the power of social. And one of the things that I read an article quite a few articles years ago, and talked to people in the industry doing the same thing that we do. And it was actually brought up that a lot of people are actually seeing more success being social than actually getting any sort of engagement from their posts. And the power of being social is something that you and I can actually say that we've heard a lot of businesses say, well, I don't have time, or they don't make time. And so I wanted to talk to you today just to get your take on it, because I know that you're a very social person online as well as just in person. And there is a lot of power to it. It puts people at ease. It, again, makes them feel connected. It makes them feel that they're valued, that they're being heard, that they're being seen, that they are a part of something. There is much more depth that goes into the art of being social than just posting content. In fact, I think that, I hope today what people get from this is an understanding of what being social is, and then how they can start. So why don't we just start with that? Like, to you, what does being social on social media mean?
Yeah, I mean, you kind of said, I love what you said and how you set it up, and talking about just someone being like, "Hey, what's up? I'm here." A lot of times, you're posting content and then you're leaving. If you're using, if you have social media marketers that you work with, if you're doing it on your own, they're pre-scheduled. So it's scheduled, it's posted, and then they just disappear. So there's a lot of funny video and memes of someone just posting and being like, "Ah," and they just run away. And they've kind of compared it a little bit to if you are purchasing something off of Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to say it. Dun, dun, dun. Don't come at me. Don't come at me, anyone. But so if you've ever bought anything on Facebook Marketplace, you post something and then all of a sudden the person's like, "Bye," and they leave. And you're like, "Where'd you go?" Let's have a conversation. Let's connect. There's nothing. So it's like when you're at a party, it's the same situation. Yeah. You're talking to someone and then you completely disappear. And they don't even get a chance to talk to you. So it's kind of weird, but on social, it's kind of the same way. And I've seen people do that. So if you have a social media marketer, if you're using pre-schedules, a lot of times you're posting it and you're just leaving it. So then there's no one there to engage in your content. If they want to message you, you're not listening to anyone, so it doesn't look good. And the idea is we want to be able to show up and we want to stay there, right? So a lot of times people are like, "Well, I have someone that's managing it for me, and then I'm not there." And it's like, okay, but then you're wondering why you're not building, better social connections and better community. Yeah. When, you're just literally posting and you're leaving completely and then you're gone. And what does that tell your people? Well, I don't care what you think. I don't want to listen to you. Right. So I think for me, like when you talk about being social, I love that you said, and you talked about how some people don't even do like posting. I think we're so fixated on creating the content and not about like our people in our community and connecting and having conversations with them.
Yeah.
So I think like,
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, and understanding too, as you're talking, it's like understanding that they're all at different places. So a lot of times when you go to a party, there's always that chat GPT person that's just rambling off information, and there's a little group around, but nobody's fact checking them. Nobody even knows if what they're sharing is true. They're just talking like crazy. But so people will go, well, that loudly, character that's my target audience. And they don't realize that like their target audience is diverse and unique and different. And that there's some that are on the outskirts that just kind of snuck in the door. It's taken every ounce of who they are to get to that place to be there. They snuck in the door and they're sneaking in the back, and what it would mean for a brand to be a human and come up to them and say, thank you for coming. Right? Initiating that relationship, initiating the conversation, and showing some humility. We tend to look at like, well, this person here was quite loud on my page, so they're the ones that we're going to keep creating content for. It's like, but you're thinking that everybody is at that stage, and they're not. It would be foolish to consider that. So I think people sometimes forget that the idea of social media, like people have met the love of their life on social media. They've connected that so much through social media, a platform, because of what? It wasn't just, well, maybe there was a lot of perception or whatever it may be, but like a lot of times what we're looking for as brands and as businesses is to create relationships, sustainable, long-lasting relationships that are real. And we do it by meeting our target audience where they're at and understanding that if we make the time, if we take the time just to go be social with them first, not waiting for them to come to us, going to them. And go ahead. No, you go ahead.
Well, no, and I just I just love when you're saying that, because in my mind I'm like, like I love that you said to create like long lasting relationships. I think that this is idea of like someone, especially if they're like, I want to go viral or whatever it is, but they're like not putting in the time. And it's like people forget when you go viral or when these things happen, it's because there was something that like connected with someone that they felt like they needed to share, and then those people share, and that's kind of how it like connects. So if you're talking about wanting to like show up, be yourself, do your thing, put the content out, but you're not willing to like put the work in to create those long lasting relationships, like then like none of this is going to get built. Like that's the foundation. And the other thing I was going to say too is like that type of content that you're creating on like the long term, like no matter how much like that content is literally building your community. So I just love that you had said that, because it's really about like being seen and heard and valued. Like for me, I remember following an account that had, let's say, like 100,000 followers, and and I'm getting like a message on my like DM, and I'm like, oh my God, they DM'd me, and it's like just a bot that's like, oh my God, thanks for following. It's the same thing like over and over again. Or when you get like email marketing, it's the same thing. It's like, hey, blank, and it's like they're calling me by my last name and not my first name. So it's obviously something that was just like automated. Like I feel ick because I understand that there's a time and place, but when we're talking about being social, like the idea about being social is really like connecting with those people. And so, and I've had accounts where someone was like, hey, Allie, thanks for following me. How did you find me? And it's a real person I'm talking to. And I'm like, and it just, this whole thing happens. And I'm like, wow, I feel like I'm part of your community. I feel seen. I feel heard. I feel valued.
Yeah. Taking the time and making the time, which we've talked about quite a bit, because those two things are absolutely essential to, the art of being social. And I think that, working backwards sometimes and saying, okay, like we know that there's always going to be those, loud charisma characters, and then there's the quiet characteristics. In my life, I'm very attracted to the quiet characteristics, and actually deterred from the loud charisma. That's just who I am. And I try not to, but when I think about that, then the reason why I talk about this is because there's still, for businesses, you're going to have it all. And so then you need to make the time and take the time to get to know each, and then to start engaging in that relationship with them, take the step first. And so you've shared a couple of things that people can do. And I hope that the people listening are like, you know what, I can actually start doing that today. Like I own a business. I haven't been doing this. Why not try? Like show a little bit of bravery, some curiosity, some courage, and go, I'm going to give it a go. And so I'll give you an example is that I was just in a meeting with somebody and I was talking about how, look at where their target audience is located. And actually, if you look at where a lot of their sales and their engagement has been coming from, it was back east, who are experiencing winter right now. So when you know your target audience, they knew that their target demo was majority women in a certain age, and it's winter right now. these people wanted to be outside, but they're not outside. Like it was like all of these things that it was telling us about who they were. It allowed us the opportunity then to go, well, I'm going to go target people in that area. I'm going to go first, and you can hop on Instagram. And again, people are like, well, how do I do these things? And it's as simple as you have this amazing search tool that you can use right there on your like phone. You can sit and have a tea, a coffee, whatever you want, even 15 minutes a day. If you were to do this, you're going to notice a huge increase in the engagement with your community. So going back to that analogy is we knew all these things about these people. Then we were able to find people in that area and then just start talking with them. And it was not just like, it was heartfelt things too. Right. It wasn't just I'm not talking about just posting an emoji. And especially I will just pause for 1 second. If people in your community reach out to you in any way, please do not respond back with just an emoji.
Oh God,
that is a conversation ender right there.
Yeah.
Since they've made the time to reach out, which is what we're all begging for, is that level of engagement. Since they've initiated that engagement, continue it. Utilize that as an amazing opportunity to speak with them, to ask them questions, to get to know them, even go look at their feed and say something. Like I remember one time, I spoke about something on someone's feed. I was like, oh, I love this. And it was in the background, but it was something that I knew. And they were like, this person that I had reached out to, it was actually somebody with a big account, was like, I can't believe you noticed that, because it meant a lot to them. They had actually strategically put something kind of in the background or something, but I knew what it was. But that was me being aware, listening, taking the time, and then reaching out. And it started a cool conversation. And so like, I hope even this example as well kind of like adds to yours, where it's like, you can easily find out the more and more information that you know about your diverse target audience, then you can take the time to go speak to not everybody. When you try to speak to everyone, you speak to no one, but you can speak to 15 minutes, take 15 minutes, think, I'm going to try my best to talk to 10 people today. And just go make insightful, caring, transparent, in your brand, tone, personality, voice, humor, everything. I'm just going to go and I'm going to say something and just try it for a little while. And I guarantee that you're going to see results that you'll be excited about.
Totally. And I love that, because even when we're talking about being social, like let's say you're trying to pitch a brand, right? Like you're a marketing company that's trying to pitch, or you want to do a collaboration or whatever the case may be. We think about a lot of brands, and it doesn't matter how big or small this company or your brand is. When you're trying to pitch them, there's probably a lot of people messaging, again, in the sea of noise. Like there's a lot of people doing kind of the same thing. Right. And when you take the time to, so as an example, let's say you're trying to reach out to a company, a person, whatever, but you've like gone and done the research. You've followed them for a while. You're engaging with their content, and it's not just like putting emojis. Like you said, you're sending them DMs. Hey, Carol, I really love your content. I love that you went to the tea house. Oh my gosh, this is so cute. This is really great. This is something that resonates with me. Here's a story about myself. Like whatever the case may be. Yeah. Like that already shows that you care, and that you're not just doing it for the sake of doing it. You're doing it because you actually want to create a meaningful connection. Yeah. And like 9 out of 10 times, doesn't matter if it's right now or down the road, like that person's going to think of you. They're gonna be like, oh yeah, like I remember like Matt reached out to me and like really talked about this, and I'm actually looking for blank, and now I'm going to like reach out to them and opening that conversation. I've seen this a lot of times with even like restaurants. So if let's say like influencers or bloggers are trying to reach out to a restaurant, they want to work with them. But then let's say they've gone to the restaurant on their own accord, right? Like no one's paying me, whatever. I'm just doing this for myself. Maybe they share their experience that time. And it's like, I really genuinely just like love your grilled cheese. Like I eat it all the time. My mom used to make it, you share a story, like all these things. It's like a human connection. It's almost like you're like removing the part, because tomorrow, if we were to remove Instagram, like Instagram's gone, Facebook, all the social platforms are gone. Like, who are you? Mm-hmm. What do you represent? How are you in your community? Can you go out in the world and still connect with those people? Like, it's really concerning if, you know what I mean? Like a lot of your connections are like surface level. Yeah. It's not sustainable, right? It's not. And it goes back to, being sustainable. Yeah. And it goes back to what we chatted about earlier, which is creating long lasting relationships. And so people don't understand that some of the power in the art of being social with your community is retention. And we know that it's much cheaper to retain people than it is to get new ones. But we don't think that way. And so I love what you brought up was actually where I was going to go, because a lot of people will say, but I still don't understand. In their head, they're thinking, how is this marketing? How is this going to bring people to purchase my products and services? And I love that you brought that up, because when it is time, for them to make a purchase or to buy a product, a service, whatever it may be, you will come to mind because of the kindness of reaching out and creating and starting that relationship with them. And I think that that's something, there is so much power in that. People don't really understand that, like a lot of times. And I hope that that's what they get from this. And I think just like at search and rescue marketing agencies, one of the things that if people
reach out to us even if they're like asking, oh, I still am not quite sure how to do this, or I want to implement this. I don't have the time. Is that something that you do? Yeah, absolutely. And if you can't hire us, if you're somewhere in the world that you feel like you don't want to hire us, you feel like you know somebody else, I honestly encourage you just to do some tests for 1 week, just for 5 days, 15 minutes a day. Just make time. And that's one thing I will say too, is I remember somebody once saying, if you're not going to make the time and take the time for your target audience, what is it saying to them?
Yeah, absolutely.
And since they're that smart, do you think that they already then understand that you're not willing to take time to go reach out to them? And the last thing that I'll kind of just say in there as well, which you when you were talking, it really brought up in me, is that people forget that our job is like in marketing is to just be there as like, I mean, there's lots of things in marketing, but it's like to be the gentle nudge or that little voice of encouragement, right? So it's not real, and like not everybody is ready to purchase today. It's just not like that in the world. But if you come into going back to that analogy of coming in the room, it's like I've already, because I'm curious, I'm the person that's thinking about buying your product or service. I'm curious. I've seen something, or somebody's told me about something. I'm there. I entered the room, but you didn't say hi to me, right? Like in that relationship, like nobody came to me. So I was kind of just lingering and so I just left. I've seen you. I was curious. But if somebody takes and makes that time to just initiate that one little bit of like, hey, it's good to see you, that alone can change everything. And it takes that's a little marketing nudge right there, where you're taking somebody from not knowing anything about you or being curious to that next little level. And sometimes the nudge can be a big nudge where they're like, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to get it. I'm going to purchase it. And then for those in your target audience that are already like, I've been following these guys forever. They're awesome. And when they get that little, hey, it's great to see you here, it's like, oh, okay, I'm getting it. And they're getting it. So I think reminding people that is the power of being social. A lot of people think that's not, wow, that was a good explosion. A lot of people think that it's not, there isn't really power to being social. And I do have to say that honestly, I can't encourage you enough just to give it a try. Really just give it a try. If you have any questions, hit us up. Like I would definitely love to hear from you guys what your experience is like. If you've taken that kind of little challenge that I was just talking about trying it for a week, I think that you will be blown away when you see the results of what's going to happen from you initiating the relationship with your target audience. Absolutely. I think that if you can pick 5 people to reach out to this week, send them a message of someone that you admire. I think that's another thing too, is that when we talk about being social, it's not just about selling or like with intention to like purchase or sell or anything like that. I think like when we talk about being social, just connection, right? So if there's someone you admire, tell them, let them know like, hey, I've been following you for a while and this stuff really resonates. Like imagine putting content out and then having that person message you and be like, this really resonates with me. They've measured this before. It's not about how many people see it. Really, it's about who are the people that are impacted. Like that's what makes us feel better. Yeah. Right. Because if like 20 people see it, it's like, okay, great. But if like 2 people are like, hey, Ali, that resonated with me, that makes me feel so good. And I'm going to keep creating that content because it makes me feel good. Okay. That's cool. So remember that, everybody, what I'm hearing from you then, Ali, is that you feel seen, you feel valued, you feel heard. Again, you feel a part of something. Yeah. Yeah. That to me is like, I love that. I absolutely love it. We're going to end with that because I think that's phenomenal. So thank you everybody for joining us today, for listening to the Art of Being Social with both of us. And I hope that if you do have any questions, make sure that you reach out to us, shoot us a DM, shoot us a comment, shoot us an email, whatever it may be. We'd love to hear from you guys. And always, I forget this, but please, if you're listening on wherever you get your podcast, make sure that you subscribe, you follow us. If it's on YouTube, that you subscribe. We love the support, love being able to answer questions that you guys have. And thank you so much for joining us. And thanks for joining me, Ali. I appreciate it. Thank you. I had a great time today. Me too. Cheers. Bye.